Guys, for choosing us, tons to get to. We will talk 49ers. We're going to throw it back with Hank Bauer, some vintage NFL footage for you later on in the show. And yes, Sean O'Hara is back. He's a regular at this point. Peter Schrager is here. My name is Kay Adams. And this, ladies and gentlemen, making his debut. Grab the champagne and hit it on the side of the boat. James Palmer is here for 3 hours.
Guys, I am excited to be here. I'm not going to lie. I'm in the Mountain Time Zone. I'm in the Mountain Time Zone, so I got up at 2:30. I now have a newfound respect, or just respect for the first time ever, for Will Silva. So I know what he's going through.
There you go.
I'm the closest in terms of time zone to this guy.
Just a little respect.
TZ. Unfortunately. Don't feel bad for me even a little bit. At GMFB, let's start with the Falcons. What? Yes, that's where we're starting in the lead block.
Lead block.
Yes, thank you so much, Sean. James, yours could use some work. You'll have 2 more tries to correct that. All right, the Falcons, of course, did not take a quarterback in the draft. They took Kyle Pitts 4th overall. That means Matt Ryan will be under center for Atlanta in 2021. His superstar wide receiver, though, some questions, some rumors. It remains to be seen. Ryan was asked about Julio Jones and those said trade rumors yesterday.
I love Julio. I mean, I've been so lucky to play with him, for the past decade, and he's an unbelievable player. I don't get involved in this side of it, from a teammate, from a player standpoint. He's my teammate, he's my guy, and you let the other side of it shake out how it is.
He's my teammate. He's my guy. He's a guy who had like 1 million yards. I think it was literally like 253 yards in a single game several times in his career. A huge part of that MVP season that Matt Ryan had. Now, okay, so we know Steve Weish has reported on our very network that the Falcons continue to listen to offers for Julio Jones. James Palmer, you're going to enjoy this because this is the point of the program. We sort of just have fun and speculate and talk potential landing spots. We love it when a big name superstar is potentially on the block. Schrags, which team do you think needs to be more aggressive in getting this 2-time All-Pro wideout?
Yeah, okay. We love it when a team potentially is getting rid of a superstar and we can speculate. And then we always love it when they're like, oh, but he's coming home, so we're happy that he's still
100%.
there. That's our favorite storyline. We don't like seeing guys trade and change teams all the time. But if they were to go, where makes the best fit? And in this case, I said yesterday on the show, I thought Julio Jones is still the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. And I was expecting a ton of blowback. In fact, I got just the opposite. A lot of people being like, yes, and a lot of current players being like, no, he still is that guy. So if you were to trade the #1 wide receiver in all the NFL, which team should be most aggressive? I go to a team that's entire ethos since their new head coach took over in 2016 has been aggressive. I think the Los Angeles Rams should go get Julio. I mean this. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. They don't have any draft picks. They got no draft picks in the next 10 years. They don't have any cap space at all. But this is what they do. This is their ethos. This is what their mantra has been. Are we living or are we just letting life pass? If Julio Jones is a free agent, and here's the connection, and he's not a free agent, if they're going to be true, here's the connection. Julio's best seasons as a pro were in Atlanta, obviously, in the middle of his career. His wide receivers coach during that time was Raheem Morris. Who's the new defensive coordinator for the LA Rams? Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris has been with Julio all this time in Atlanta, the past 5 seasons. He could be the guy that bangs on the table and tells McVay and Les Snead and Kevin Demoff and the guys, let's go get him. But gosh, to me, Julio to the Rams, and we're seeing a lot of Julio footage. Can I see that full screen again of the Rams, who they've brought in? Because I would love to see some Rams stuff here, because I'll show you what they've been about. And it's this. It's go get that veteran. A lot of these veterans, when they ended up in Los Angeles, was like, wow, what? How are they going to afford him? How are they going to make that work? There's no chance they can make that work. That's crazy. Clay Matthews, Marcus Peters, Jalen Ramsey. Julio would be the next one. If I know anything about the Rams, it's that they live life to the fullest and they are looking to make the best team possible and to win now always. Julio to the Rams. Let's start our James Palmer Wednesday morning with a big swing. Let's go. Julio to the Rams. That's what I'm saying.
Aggressive.
Wow, I love the connection there. Raheem Morris, is the receiver coach, the DB coach, he can do it all. And now to bring Julio out west, that would be dangerous for the NFC West. I'm going to try to keep him on the East Coast here, Schrager. So I'll play along with this game here. Look, there's another team that's been really aggressive this offseason, trying to right the wrongs from the previous season, and it's the New England Patriots. When you look at all the talent that they're bringing in, the Hunter Henry and Matt Judon, and they just drafted Mac Jones. Adding Julio Jones to the Patriots, I think, completely changes the conversation about that offense. It completely changes what Josh McDaniels is going to try to do. And now all of a sudden, that offense becomes even more vertical. You've got Hunter Henry in the middle of the field, and you've got Julio on the outside. It wouldn't be a new precedent either. When you look at the Patriots, they've kind of made a living on taking aging veteran wide receivers. Look at this list of wide receivers they've gone out and got. Look, Randy Moss, that plucked him from the Raiders. He was in tears when he signed with them. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, Brandon Lloyd, Demaryius Thomas, Antonio Brown. Maybe none of those guys were as productive as Randy Moss, but Julio's got a lot of ball left in him. And I think if you are Cam Newton or if you're Mac Jones right now, and you've got that guy, that changes everything that you do offensively. And the other receiver that I look at that's not on that list is Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, they traded a first and a third rounder to get him from the Saints. They ended up trading him to the Rams a year later, but it wouldn't be unprecedented for them to trade. And they also traded for Mohamed Sanu, gave up a second-round pick. So,
okay.
New England, Patriots, what do you think?
I like it, Sean May. I hope Brandon Cooks never buys in any of these cities. I hope he rents constantly. I hope that's been his MO over the last several years. I'm going to go with the team in the middle of the country. Tell me if this team could use Julio Jones. They had 11 touchdowns from their wide receivers last year. That ranked 26. Their number one clear-cut wide receiver has been under 60 catches and 800 yards each of the last 2 years. They have $20 million in cap space. They've made big offseason trades with big names in the past. The Indianapolis Colts. How about Julio Jones running opposite of T.Y. Hilton? I think that would be a really, really good addition as you're trying to bring Carson Wentz back from the dead, a big-bodied receiver that is always open, and as Schrager said, many consider and are probably right, is the best receiver in all of football. I think that also brings back and rejuvenates T.Y. Hilton a little bit from what we've seen in the last 2 years. I think this would be a perfect fit for a team, as everything I mentioned in struggling at the receiver spot still went 11-5 last year. And you look at Paris Campbell, can he stay healthy? You look at Michael Pittman, their other number 2, can he take another jump? These are all question marks that you don't need to have answered, Kay, if you go out and get Julio Jones and you have the running game, the offensive line, and we'll talk plenty Carson Wentz today and how he can bounce back. I think Julio Jones would be a great addition to help him get back into that MVP type of play.
Super Bowl contender, Indianapolis Colts, if they land that deal. So it's obvious from what you guys are saying, those are teams I hadn't even thought of. When it's a name like Julio Jones, you got to go for it. You got to pick up the call, pick up the phone and make the call. I've talked a lot about the Ravens, how I wanted them to add a number 1 wide receiver. They did. They drafted Rashad Bateman. I like what they have going on there with Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. Of course, they add Sammy Watkins in free agency. But if you can get the caliber of a player, of a Julio Jones, Ravens, you got to make the call. Why? Because the window is short. You're going to have to extend Lamar Jackson at some point. You're not going to be able to add an expensive piece like Julio Jones. So I'm just putting this out there. Go all in. You rarely do this. It's not your character. It's not your DNA. Go all in, be more. This is the year. And I know, and Schrager, you had a really solid point that I hadn't thought of about how every team values positions a different way. They are run first. They're run heavy. And maybe they don't value receivers the same way as other teams do, but they did spend 2 first-round picks on receivers over the last 3 years. And when I look at those 3 playoff losses, man, to the Chargers, to the Titans, to the Bills, what did teams do? All 3 of those teams just stacked the box, took away the run, and they did not have that guy in the playoffs. I'm talking like season long, great, regular season in and out, run the ball, do your thing. But when it came down to it, in the playoffs to get over that hump, they didn't have that receiver, that one big piece to sort of make plays. Maybe that person's Rashad Bateman. It certainly can be. He's a complete wide receiver. I like Sammy Watkins, and I'm not taking anything away from them, Schrags, but I would just really like to see them try to pull this move.
I love it, and it kind of would fit what the Ravens have done in the past. If you remember, Anquan Boldin had already been in Arizona, then he comes over to Baltimore, and he has this amazing season, wins a Super Bowl. Steve Smith had been in Carolina, last stage of his career, goes to Baltimore. If Julio could end his career in Baltimore and be that guy for Lamar Jackson, it would be incredible. I know the Ravens fans would absolutely love it.
Do it, because once you got to pay your quarterback, you're not going to be making any moves like this. More Good Morning Football on the way. Jimmy Palm Trees.